today's show, we have Mallory, the Executive Director of the American Red Cross. How's it going?
Good, how are you?
Good. So if you want to tell us a little bit about what the American Red Cross does for our community.
Sure. Well, the mission statement of the American Red Cross, and it's very old, we were founded in 1881, is that the American Red Cross prevents and alleviates human suffering by mobilizing the power of volunteers and generosity of donors. So that encompasses a whole lot of things. We have 5 lines of service, and each line of service is active in this community here.
Oh, nice. So yeah, we'll talk more about those 5 lines in a little bit, but I kind of want to bring it back to talk about the history and how it came to America from local native, semi-local Clinton, local native Clara Barton, and how that discovered like with Switzerland and all that stuff. If you want to talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so the International Red Cross was founded by a guy called Henri Dunant, and he lived in a village called Solferino, and he noticed one day there was a battle, and he saw the absolute devastation that this battle had caused. There were just hundreds of wounded men that were left on this battlefield by both sides after they had finished the battle. And there was no one really coming to those men's aid. They were just dying on the battlefield.
And then that's a good thing too, that they didn't really pick a side. It was just like, if you're hurt,
right,
then they'll help you.
Yes, and that's really, really important to the Red Cross movement, is that concept of neutrality. We don't take sides, we don't take stances, and we help everyone. And that's really where that came from, was that battle. And so Henri Dunant rounded up all the villagers, and they went and they helped all of the wounded soldiers, because they were no longer enemy combatants. They were just injured men that needed care. And so after that, Henri Dunant took that concept and what had happened to Geneva, and as part of the Geneva Convention, the International Red Crescent movement was started. And then fast forward a little bit later on, Clara Barton, who is known as the Angel of the Battlefield, saw the same kind of devastation in the Civil War and decided to take a cue from Henri Dunant and found the American Red Cross in 1881.
How did she end up going to Switzerland to begin with? Because she was seeing like Civil War helped out a lot there. The American Red Cross wasn't around for the Civil War?
Right. It was founded in 1881 after the Civil War, because Clara Barton had seen the same kind of things that Henri Dunant had seen in the Battle of Solferino. And that's when she decided that she really needed to help. And she was a pretty well-traveled woman, and she had heard of Henri Dunant's efforts and then brought that back to Congress. And the Red Cross is actually a congressionally chartered organization. Okay.
So then she just heard of him doing his stuff, and she wanted to go check it out for herself.
Right, which is pretty remarkable even for a woman in that time. That was really something that she felt very strongly. She wanted to have some sort of role that would make a social impact, and so she felt that the best way that she could do that was by taking her nursing experience in the Civil War and joining this international movement.
Awesome. Great. So then what made her reside over in Clinton?
She actually resided in Clinton when she was a child. The house that she lived in was recently for sale.
Yeah.
I really wanted to buy it.
My wife and I are buying a house at the end of the month, and those are the ones that we wanted to check out, but
yeah,
we never made it to an open house.
It used to be a music school, and Clara attended school there when she was about the age of 12. So she lived in that house and went to music school there, and so we're really proud that that's, a part of our chapter. The original Red Cross chapter is actually in New York State, in Dansville, near Rochester, and there's a Red Cross museum there, which is really cool. And the local chapter here also has a lot of Red Cross memorabilia as well, from, all the way back to before World War I.
So this has got to be one of the best Red Crosses in the area, being that Clara Barton was this close to it, I would imagine.
I think we are, but I might be a little partial.
Right.
Yeah.
Great. So after Clara Barton, what happened after that?
Well, I think the Red Cross became best known during World War I and World War II, and that's when they took that military assistance concept and really put that to use. And so you saw Red Cross recruiting a lot of nurses. You saw blood collection start during World War II. And so we've always had a really active role in assisting the military, and we still have that role today. Not in the same capacity necessarily, but we do work with both active duty and veteran military members to meet some needs that they have.
Oh, nice. Like work along, like side by side with them.
We do a lot of different things with the military, but I think what we're best known for is our emergency communications system. And so what that is we're the only agency in the entire country that's trusted by the U.S. military to help verify emergency messages from family members. So basically, when someone in the military is serving overseas and doesn't have the ability to communicate in the traditional ways that we are able to communicate because they're in an area where communication is scarce, or there's some other reason that they're out of pocket is the term, then what their families are able to do is if there's some sort of family emergency, like an illness or a death, or even something happy like a birth where the service member needs to be notified or to come home, the family, instead of calling the military, they call the Red Cross. And the Red Cross has volunteer caseworkers as part of our service to armed forces service. And what they do is they take that message from the family member and then they verify that, whether it's with a hospital or a funeral home, and then they convey that verified message to the military. And then the military's commanding officer is responsible for making sure that that message reaches that soldier. And then they make the determination of whether or not they can come home. But the Red Cross is very hands-on in making sure that that message is accurate and timely. And we work with the family that's home here experiencing that crisis to make sure that they're supported as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah, most people don't know we do that.
That's just one of the many things too.
Right.
You said you had 5 departments. Is that what it was?
Yep,
or
we call them lines of service.
5 lines of service?
Yes.
And so was that one of the lines?
Yes, we have our military line, and that's the emergency communications. We also have what's called the Hero Care Network. So if any active duty military or veteran person is experiencing some sort of crisis, we have a 24-hour hotline as well as an app where they can go on and initiate a case, and then a Red Cross caseworker will follow up with them and either connect them with Red Cross resources or refer them to other resources in the community where they can have someone work on that problem for them. So in addition to our military services, we also have blood services. And
is that 2 or 3?
That's 2.
2.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we have blood services, and that's typical blood collections. Every 3 seconds in the U.S., someone needs blood, and we collect 46% of the nation's blood supply.
What's the rarest blood type out there?
The rarest blood type and the universal blood type is O negative. And it's really, really badly needed. It's one of the blood types that can be used for babies that have certain conditions. And so we're always looking for all blood types, but especially the universal donor. So we have blood services, and then disaster services is another big one that people think of. And so what we do here locally primarily is we respond to over 100 local disasters every year, and the majority of those are home fires. Yeah, and people think of, big floods like we had here in 2013 or hurricanes like Hurricane Matthew, and we absolutely respond to those events.
Right.
But the single most common event are home fires.
Right, because I guess not everyone lives next to like a big river or tornado valley and stuff. So
right, yeah.
Makes sense.
Yep.
And then with that, you guys offer free fire alarms?
Yep, we have a program called the Home Fire Campaign, and it's a 5-year national initiative to reduce home fire deaths and injuries by 25%. So we started this campaign in October of 2014, and we've already seen a 6.7% reduction in the rate of deaths and injuries with home fires nationwide. And we've already saved 250 lives with the campaign nationwide, including some here locally. We did a campaign in Utica with the Municipal Housing Authority, And 2 weeks after we installed alarms in Humphrey Gardens Apartments in December of 2015, one of the units had a fire, and the Red Cross installed smoke alarms went off and alerted the entire building to evacuate.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we were really proud of that.
Yeah. Was the building okay? Or did it
It was contained to one unit, but that's
okay.
because the neighbors heard the smoke alarms going off and they were able to evacuate the building.
Wow.
So that was really exciting for
Yeah.
us. We're getting ready to install our 1 millionth alarm this year.
Wow. Where's that going?
Nationwide. I'm not sure where it's going, but we do have, it's part of what we're calling the Sound the Alarm event, which is happening during Fire Prevention Month, which is October.
Is that where everyone just sits at home and pushes the buttons to annoy all your neighbors?
Yes. No, actually, you should be testing your smoke
True.
alarms at least
True.
twice a year.
True.
But what that is there are going to be 100 cities nationwide installing 1,000 alarms during that time period in each city. And Utica is one of the cities that will be doing that event. So that'll be September 30th. And we're looking for volunteers that want to come out and help us canvass neighborhoods and install alarms that day.
Cool. Well, so what day was that?
It's September 30th.
Okay.
And if people want to get involved, they can get involved through our Facebook page or by calling our chapter.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So 3 of the 5.
Yes.
Army, disaster. No, that's a
Yes.
different
Service to Armed Forces.
Yep.
Blood. Disaster.
relief.
Yep.
So then what's the 4th one?
Have you ever taken a CPR class or first
I have.
aid? Yes.
Yeah, because I was a snowboard instructor at Val Bialis over here, and that was a mandatory thing, just in case
So there you
something
go.
happens.
That's
So-
our Preparedness, Health, and Safety Services
Okay.
line. So that includes all of your first aid and CPR courses, and also includes things like water safety. We have a wilderness first aid course for people who are, camp counselors or something like that. So that's, all those things. And I think that was my first introduction to the Red Cross. Was I had a Red Cross swim instructor when I was a kid. So
Nice.
I always ask people if they have a Red Cross story, and 9 times out of 10, they have some sort of connection to the Red Cross because we're everywhere.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So then CPR classes.
Yep.
Does that make it one more thing?
One more thing.
Let's see. Other one.
This is personally, I don't like to say I have a favorite line of service.
Okay, so this is
I
your
started as a disaster volunteer, so I'm kind of loyal to that.
Right.
But I think one of our most interesting lines of service and our least known line of service is our international line. And that is really important in this community in particular because we have a service through that called Restoring Family Links. And basically, it's like, where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? We have volunteers that are trained to be international detectives. So if there's someone that has been torn apart from family by war or conflict, they can open a Restoring Family Links case with the Red Cross, and then we utilize and leverage our global Red Cross, Red Crescent Society to try and locate that family member anywhere where they might be in the world. And so we do that here. We have a partnership with the Refugee Center, and they have 10 cross-trained Refugee Center Red Cross volunteers that are multilingual, and they help the people that come in looking for family members, and they leverage that network to try and find them.
I can imagine Utica being, is it the headquarters for this? Just because of all the refugees and all the different languages that are around here.
It's not the headquarters for the Restoring Family Links program, but the Refugee Center does serve as the headquarters for this chapter's Restoring Family Links program. And so I have a wonderful board member, Jennifer Sislevich, who's an employee at the Refugee Center, and she helps run that program as a Red Cross volunteer and an employee with the Refugee Center. She's amazing. I can't say enough about her and her volunteer team that do this, but we've had examples of cases. We had a man who came from Iraq, and he was looking for his brother, and we managed to locate him in an Iraqi prison.
Wow.
So we can search prison records, and we have access to things because of the Red Crescent Society that people don't normally have access to. We've also developed a computer program called Trace the Face, where the Red Cross is taking pictures of refugees as they're coming through camps in Northern Africa and Southern Europe. And then people can go online and search through all of those photos to see if they can find family members crossing the Mediterranean that way.
So the guy that they found in an Iraqi prison, how do you do that? You just call up the prison and be like, hey, You got some Americans there?
Well, every country has their own Red Cross or Red Crescent Society, and so the American Red Cross works with the Red Cross of whatever country we're trying to reach, and then they have their methods of probably Red Crescent Society in Iraq.
So they probably have some undercover people, like trying to be like, okay, they have Americans, here's a picture of them, identify them?
Yeah, I don't know. It
Recognition?
could be that they have access to those records. Because we're a neutral organization, unfortunately there are, terrorist groups that will attack the Red Cross. We have lost, Red Cross workers in Afghanistan really recently. But generally speaking, we're seen as neutral and respected throughout the global community. And so we're able to gain access to a lot of things that most organizations don't have access to. And it's really great. And you can volunteer for this program. So if you want to be trained to be this international detective, and you can do it from the comfort of your own home, then, we would love to work with you. But it's such an amazing program. And we have it's actually another refugee center employee was part of the Bosnian conflict and lost her cousin, and the Red Cross here was able to locate, the Red Cross in Bosnia was able to locate her cousin, and then the chapter here, once they did, was notified, and then we were able to deliver that message to her. This was back in the 80s, and she still has that message from when it was delivered and still tells that story to this day. So it's a really, really amazing line of service, and people have no idea that we do it. We also have a measles eradication program, and we've eradicated measles in 2 of the 5 World Health Organization's zones, and we're working toward eradicating it in every World Health Organization zone. And all it takes is $1 for 1 vaccine. And that's also a American Red Cross program that people don't really know about, because all they think in this area especially are blood and floods.
Wow.
Yeah.
A lot of great stuff. So the community can just volunteer with any of the 5 different programs that you guys have set up.
Absolutely. We're always looking for volunteers, and every line of service needs volunteers. 96% of the work that the Red Cross does is done by volunteers. We have a really small staff here locally. It's myself, I'm the executive director, and then I have a disaster program manager. And we have our volunteer specialists that we share with another chapter. And then we have over 450 volunteers that support our work in 4 counties.
Nice.
We cover Oneida, Herkimer, Otsego, and Delaware counties. And so if you can imagine the amount of work that needs to be done in those counties versus the number of staff members, we couldn't do it without the help of our volunteers.
Great. Are you looking for more volunteers?
We are always looking for volunteers. Yeah, people can go to redcross.org/volunteer, and we list all of our opportunities in depth. And so you can browse through by your zip code and pick something that stands out to you. But we are constantly recruiting, and it's always a need.
Awesome. So then you yourself volunteered. That's how you got started with it all, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So what branch did you volunteer with?
I started as a disaster action team volunteer, and those are the people that go out to our home fires 24/7, 365 days a year. And I was working professionally in marketing at the time, and then the earthquake in Haiti hit. And I really felt very compelled to go, but it just wasn't the right time in my life. And then I was working at the Syracuse Post-Standard, and the Red Cross building is right behind it in Syracuse. And I said to a friend one day, I've always really wanted to do that. And I decided just to sign up, and I picked disaster volunteer, not really knowing what to expect. And I went and had my first meeting, and they told me about how home fires are the #1 disaster. And people don't think about that. They think about flooding, like you mentioned, or tornadoes. And so I thought, I'll give this a try. It's outside my comfort zone, but about 300 fires later, I decided to make it a career. And so I've been a Red Cross staff member for a little over 3.5 years, and it's been an amazing journey.
Awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
Really cool. All right. Is there anything else that you wanted to add?
We do deploy local volunteers to national disasters. We deployed over 70 volunteers from our region to Hurricane Matthew this past fall. And so if people have an interest in developing a different skill set or utilizing their skill set on a large-scale disaster, we have people that are trained to be caseworkers. We have people that are trained to go and do disaster assessment. I'm on the public affairs team, and so those are the people that go out and actually work with the media on a large-scale disaster, develop content for social media and donor-facing materials. So there's really a role for anyone who wants to become involved, and we provide all the training, which is nice. I think that the organization is great for retired people who have a lot of time and don't necessarily want to do what they did for 30, 40 years as their career. So it's an opportunity to get fresh training and try something new. But it's also really great for young professionals who want to do a lot with career development, because in addition to really great networking opportunities with the organization, we also offer free world-class training with a lot of transferable skills. So I really think that there is a place for anyone in the Red Cross, depending on what you want to do with it.
Awesome. Great. So then to give blood donations, do you just show up at your building, knock on the door, be like, hey?
Not my building, but we do have a blood donation center in New Hartford.
Okay.
Our chapter office is on Genesee Street in Utica, but our blood collection center is on Commercial Drive in New Hartford. And they're open 7 days a week, all different hours, but we have this really cool blood app now that people can download, and you can search drives by zip code. And I like the feature where you can actually see where your blood was used. So if you schedule your appointment through the blood app, then it kind of tracks your blood's journey for you, and you can see it went to someone locally at Rome Hospital or St. Elizabeth's. So it's really, it's come a long way since the little church blood drives, and we still have little church blood drives and the blood donation center and fire departments, and they're all over all the time, but it only takes about an hour, and every donation saves up to 3 lives. Wow. So I always encourage people to go and do it. You can be a hero in an hour or less.
Yeah, that's definitely sounds amazing. So I myself am afraid of needles, but it just sounds like a great opportunity to not only save 3 lives.
Yeah, up to 3 lives in an
awesome.
hour.
Not to mention the cookie and orange juice you get after.
Yeah, you get, and right now at a lot of our drives, we have a partnership with Stewart's Shops, so you get a coupon for a free pint of ice cream. How could you beat it? A whole pint, wow. Any flavor.
I feel like everyone should just go donate.
I know.
Now, all the time for that.
Exactly, and
each time a pint. Each time.
Well, you can only donate blood every 56 days.
Oh, okay.
So,
yeah.
But we have promotions all the time. We give out T-shirts and water bottles. We had a partnership with the Girl Scouts this summer, so some drives get Girl Scout cookies. I know, like a whole box.
I'm afraid of needles, but I could probably tolerate. And then plus the 3 lives. That's like the main. Well, what
thing. I tell people that tell me that they're afraid of needles, and I am too. I hate needles. I have tattoos and I hate needles, and I don't want to. But what I say is, whatever discomfort you're experiencing at the time of your blood donation is significantly less than the person who needs that blood. And so if you're lying there on the table and they're putting that needle in your arm, number 1, don't look, but number 2, remember that that one little second of discomfort for you is nothing compared to the person that needs blood.
Would you say that there's a blood shortage? Like, if you don't donate, then that pretty much means that 3 people are going to die without your blood?
So there are a lot of times we have emergency blood shortages, and you'll see those signs. They're bright orange, and we'll put them around the community. And it happens a lot during the summer because people just don't donate a lot in the summer because they're busy. It's summer vacation and people are traveling. But when you see those emergency blood need signs, those orange signs, it means that we have 1 day's supply or less on the shelves. And that's the point in time where people start, like hospitals will start canceling surgeries. And so if there are elective surgeries or surgeries that aren't a priority, then those surgeries get canceled or pushed back because there is such a blood shortage. And so while there always is a need for blood, I don't think people always take those signs seriously, and that means that surgeries are being canceled and there's a 1-day supply or less. And so we really, really appreciate it when people donate, especially during those times.
Yeah, that's great. And plus, saving 3 lives and 5 pints of ice cream a year each time you donate.
How could you beat it? What would be better?
56 days. That's
Yeah.
how long it takes for blood to regenerate in your body?
Yeah, that's about how long. I mean, it regenerates pretty quickly, and the juice and the cookies help after. But yeah, that's the FDA guidelines. All of the regulations and things like that having to do with blood donation, like whether or not people are eligible because they've traveled to certain countries. Those are all FDA guidelines, and sometimes people get upset with the Red Cross, thinking I'm not letting them donate blood because they were in Europe during the mad cow disease thing.
Yeah.
Blame the FDA.
So you guys are in need of donations. Do they stay local when you donate to the American Red Cross?
So we always need financial support. I think a big misconception is that we are government funded, and we actually don't receive any funding from the government.
Right.
And so we are able to carry out our mission through the generosity of our corporate, foundation, and individual donors. And that's always a question that's asked, are my donations used locally? And absolutely, we spent a significant amount of money locally carrying out our programs every year. And we always honor donor intent. And so if someone really feels very passionately about their dollar being donated somewhere specific, then we do honor that. Obviously, our preference is to have someone make a gift and allow us to use it where the need is greatest, but we always honor donor intent.
Great.
91 cents of every dollar we spend goes directly to client services. So our overhead is very low, and that's thanks to the power of our volunteers. That 96% of our work is done by volunteers, and that's how we're able to keep our overhead so low. So we could not do it without our volunteer workforce.
That's awesome. And then when you volunteer, you get to go to even like the biggest disasters too, like besides local disasters, fires, and help out there, but they also send you out.
Yes, yeah.
But then you have to like find a way to get there.
No, actually the Red Cross pays for all of your travel expenses. When you're deployed, we call it a deployment.
Okay.
And we pay for your travel expenses, your lodging, and your meals for the entire time that you're deployed for that 2-week period. It's a minimum of 10 days that we ask that you go out because we're transporting you out there.
Sure.
I went to Houston for 2 weeks last June for the flooding down there, and it was a really rewarding experience for me and very eye-opening. We see home fires here, and it's one thing to see just one family impacted by disaster. And obviously, to that family, the disaster is significant and life-altering. But to see entire neighborhoods that have been impacted by something like a flood that was 10 or 12 feet high, and hear the stories of people who had narrowly escaped their home, it really makes an impact because you think about how that has happened and could happen here. And so it just, number one, helps to have experienced people who have been deployed to other places that have seen that kind of devastation, that know what to do and are trained so they can respond better here at home. But it also really makes it important that we deliver our preparedness message to communities as well, to make sure that people are preparing for the next big flood that we have. And when you see that, and when you see people who have lost everything, and you see it frequently like you do when you're working with the Red Cross, it just makes you appreciate what you have so much more.
Right. That's awesome. Yeah, it sounds like a great opportunity to get involved, help out, and help other people in need and stuff. So
Red Crossers are the best people. I'm probably partial, but
Yeah.
I've made so many lifelong friends all over the country volunteering with the Red Cross. So
That's awesome.
the rewards are amazing, really.
That's great. So if you guys want to help out, definitely volunteer your time with the American Red Cross, and definitely volunteer. There's a whole bunch of different things you guys could do to volunteer. And thanks, Mallory, for being on the couch.
Thank you so much.
And awesome. All right.
Great.
Thank you guys for watching on the couch. Stay tuned for a new episode coming out every single Wednesday. And we'll see you guys next time. See ya.